Swansea here. It's selection night, and you'll get the AFL teams first on 5AA. We'll have the Crows and Power lineups exclusively just before 6. And Caro, sweet Caroline Wilson, will get the inside word from her on all the big footy issues. That's tonight.
Adelaide's #1 sports show. 1395, Adelaide's 5AA.
Interactive radio. Call 8223 0000. Peter Godfrey.
18 past 5. Let's cross to New Zealand. Selwyn Manning from livenews.co.nz. G'day, Selwyn.
Yeah, good day. G'day, Peter. How are things?
Good. You're feeling better. You were a bit under the weather last week, bit crook.
It was a shock. I haven't had a cold or a flu or anything for about 3 years or so, but certainly came back to bite last week.
It's getting us both sides of the ditch, I think. Everyone's coming down with it. On a very sombre note, I guess, to start with this morning, talking about 3 more Kiwi soldiers killed in Afghanistan, including a lady, a female, first female killed in action. Pressure on John Key to work out when they're all coming home?
Yes, that's right, and he's been a little bit evasive on this issue. At first, he kind of gave some sort of fudging response as to, well, you know, there are 2 possible dates in 2013 where the New Zealand troops would be pulled back, but we can't confirm details of why the early option may or may not take place. Obviously, that was an unsatisfactory kind of response, considering that 3 bodies of 3 more soldiers, New Zealand soldiers, like you said, including 1 woman, Lance Corporal Jacinda Baker. They were returning to New Zealand this afternoon on board a RNZAF C-130. We understand that the reasons that the Prime Minister was not entirely clear on when our troops would be brought back is due to construction or work going on an airstrip over in Bamiyan province in Afghanistan. Now, if that work on an airstrip doesn't go ahead, apparently our soldiers would then have to travel a very dangerous route to Kabul before they would be withdrawn. And that option is obviously less satisfactory than being airlifted out straight from the province. So those are the really just logistical, physical reasons, apparently, why it may be around April 2013 or it may be slightly later. But the pressure is certainly on from many, including the Labour Party in opposition, saying to the Prime Minister, bring the troops out now and save Kiwi lives. And that's the message that John Key, as Prime Minister, is having to grapple with. It's only 2 weeks since 2 other Kiwi soldiers were killed in Afghanistan. That brings the total from the whole campaign to 10 Kiwi deaths, so 5 in the last few weeks. This is right on the heels of the Prime Minister and the New Zealand Defence Minister having assured the public that the Bamiyan province, where the building and reconstruction team has been working for years, is very stable, and now clearly it is not.
Do you have a sense of what the mood is amongst Kiwis generally? Is there a definite leaning towards wanting the withdrawal quicker, or what's your sense of it?
I guess the sense is that it's divided. You've got this argument of, no, we went in there, we committed to this, so therefore we've got to play our part, and we are there helping Afghanistan to resist the Taliban resurgence. And then there are others saying, now come on, let's look at the facts here. All of our partners are indicating planned withdrawals, the United States leading that, obviously, that it is a war that is not going well for the coalition forces. So we need to realise the part that New Zealand is playing and also acknowledge that while we were there under a reconstruction guise, that we have been playing a combat role, and so the public was never privy to that in the later 2000s and certainly up until last year. So there is a lot of kind of mixed messages coming out, and my guess would be that with these young people losing their lives, that the mood will soon change decisively to one where people want us out.
The other aspect of this, and actually had a couple of calls just in regard to this yesterday with the first female soldier killed, Lance Corporal Jacinda Baker. Is New Zealand unique having women on the front line?
Well, she was a medic.
She was a medic, okay,
working in that capacity, and so that's not unusual. And particularly in the years, it's the same in the Australian forces, just from my observations, that when we've been in stability, peacekeeping, peacemaking kind of roles, mainly the former as to the latter, that there's quite a sizable contingent of females in that force when they've been deployed. We see that up in East Timor, and particularly even when it was in very, very unstable times. So it isn't unusual, and I guess the fact that a young woman in her 20s, with obviously much promise, just like the men who have lost their lives, gives another dimension to it for the New Zealanders here too. This is hot on the heels of when the last 2 deaths occurred, only a matter of 2 weeks ago. When their bodies were brought back to New Zealand and their funeral services were held, the Prime Minister decided to go to the United States to watch his son play baseball instead of turning up to the funerals. Okay. Now, he was highly criticised for that. Excuse me. One of those soldiers who lost their lives this week had on Facebook criticised the PM for not attending the funeral of his dead colleagues, and wrote on Facebook that if he was running the country and he had ordered troops into a combat zone, he would certainly turn up at the funeral when the bodies came home. And so that was a poignant message that was relayed to John Key, and he refused to be drawn on it, saying he highly respected the sacrifice and the efforts made by the fallen soldiers, but he wouldn't be drawn on its decisions. And he did allude to the fact that his son had given much sacrifice as well, with his father being a prime minister, and he felt he needed to honour that as well. So that kind of gets people scratching their heads and thinking, well, okay, but you are the Prime Minister of the country. You are responsible for the yes or no relating to these young people being over there.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the rugby. Bledisloe Cup. Don't know if you were listening online before, but talking with Frank, he said to see if you can, ask the All Blacks if they could be a little bit gentle on the Wallabies. Is that likely? I'm guessing no.
Frank, I think you're a very important person too. You would know that if the All Blacks went soft on the Wallabies have got that might and that drive and that ambition to go right over the top of the All Blacks, and they've certainly done that in the past. So I don't see the All Blacks taking any sympathy or any easy road for the Wallabies on Saturday night, because that game at Eden Park, that is going to be two sides that are huge rivals who both want the prize.
But are we up against it, though? We haven't won there for how many years?
You're always up against it, I think, no matter where. But we're the same, Peter. I mean, when you look back in the history, it's all good. You can see trends and you can kind of get a gauge on how strong the sides have been at different times. But I tell you what, when there's serious analysis that goes on, the Australian team is the one that's most feared here, mainly. And that is one where you can never go into these games with complacency. Now, the game on Saturday last week, it was a very good game in many respects. You could see that the Wallabies were on the rise, and the All Blacks had to really dig in with defence, particularly in that second half. And the Wallabies were always within a winnable kind of margin. So New Zealanders back here, you could see in the live online commentaries where the average watcher is kind of interacting online about what's going on. You could see the mood changing to one of, oh no, the boys better dig in. The Wallabies are starting to get their heads up here, and starting to control the game. And that mood went for a good 30, 40 minutes in that second half. So you can't write the Wallabies off. But of course, I'm a Kiwi. you got to acknowledge, the win. The win on the weekend was 27 points to the All Blacks and 19 to the Wallabies at Sydney. Now, coming here to Auckland, one would expect that it would probably be tighter. But once again, it's in that huge crucible of Auckland kind of rugby supporters at Eden Park. I'm going to be there, actually. So it'll be an interesting game.
Yeah. I did see a story online, Mark Eller predicting the Wallabies won't hold the Bledisloe Cup for another decade.
Wow.
being very
well, that's
cruel.
a big call.
Yeah.
He got, maybe he's got the ghost of Paul the Oracle. Remember the octopus during the Soccer World Cup?
Maybe. Yeah,
I think he passed away for old Paul.
He predicts another decade of dominance for the New Zealanders. So.
Well, yeah. Well, that's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess going into any match, what the All Blacks always try to do is to try and exclude them from being able to hear this type of thing, because it gets them in. And we see it. We see it in the team when they do start to take notice of this praise. That you can see they think, well, we are pretty good. And then that's when they're the most vulnerable. There's interesting stuff, like Quade Cooper at 5'8". It looks like Robbie Deans, the Wallaby coach, is going to bring Quade Cooper in, possibly. Now, he's an interesting guy. He was born in New Zealand, but has made his rugby union career over in Australia, and he is a feared player here. During the Rugby World Cup, he was sadly injured with a terrible injury, and obviously had to leave the field. And there was a lot of talk that he had been targeted by the All Blacks in their encounters, and that's probably quite true in a sense, because he is a crucial player, and you can see that if he's coming back and playing in the start team, well, then the All Blacks have got a world-class player there that can just rally the rest of your Wallaby team up. So I would suggest that people can get to see this game on Saturday, whether it be at a pub or whether or not it's on some sort of, channel over in Australia. It'll be well worth watching. It's a fast-paced game these days, and it'll be an interesting one.
Well, if you get a prominent seat, wave, and I'll wave back by with the telly. I'll be down the pub watching it Saturday night. Looking forward to it.
I'll be sitting in the stands, the goalpost end of Sandringham Road end of the park.
I'll look out for you. All right, Selwyn, until next week when, we can review this next week. We'll catch you then.
We can pick up over the bones, perhaps. Yeah.
Thanks, Selwyn.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye. Selwyn Manning in New Zealand from livenews.co.nz. It'll be an interesting game, don't mind. A bit of a game of rugby. All right, 29 past 5. Anne Stone with News, Sport and Weather next. Then back with more of your calls, 8223 0000.
Every day this week, 5AA is giving you the chance to win VIP Royal Adelaide Show tickets. Be listening to Keith and me, JK, for breakfast, then right across the day for the 5AA Sideshow announcement.
Step right up for VIP Royal Show tickets.
If you're the first caller through, you win. It's that easy. The Royal Adelaide Show, proudly supported by $13.95 Adelaide's 5AA.
5:30 on 5AA. Windy with a few showers.